everybody. How are you all going today? It is, of course, Tasty Tuesdays. We're in bed with Possibilities Podcast. I'm your host, Lorraine Hughes from Crafting Possibilities. And we have Sonya Kay Horrocks from Connecting Souls Wellness. Hi, Sonya. How's it going?
Hi. I'm good on this wintry evening again. How are you?
I know. I'm brilliant. So, first of all, and I was going to say this in the green room, but for our listeners out there, if my internet drops out, which it might, Sonya, you just keep talking and I'll be jumping back in. So if I all of a sudden disappear, I'll come back. So, yeah.
There we go.
Oh dear, it's the fun thing of renting, isn't it? When you don't really have the control over things like how internet is connected to your home.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got a notice the other day talking about it going from the pavement, which is fiber to the curb, up to my front door, which is all of like 2 meters worth of cabling. And I'm like, really? Why not just make it go to inside my house? That would be really nice. What else is possible there?
What else? How does it get any better than that?
I know, right? Alrighty, so to those of you who don't know Sonya, well, Sonya, she's an incredible being, but she specializes in creating spaces for women to find the warrior woman within and to be empowered to embrace the potent parts of themselves. Sonya is a spiritual space holder, and the modalities she currently works with are Reiki, massage, meditation, Hypno, and Breathwork. She also does fantastic and amazing retreats and workshops. And Sonya's greatest passion is to help others who may have gone through challenging relationships to heal and regain their confidence, passion for life, just as she has done. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Who are we talking about here?
So we've known each other for quite a few years, just sort of floating around the different circles and things. And I've attended a few of your little groups and workshops and things. And I have to say, everything that was written there, mwah, chef's kiss, because it was spot on.
Yes, it has been a journey. It has definitely been a journey.
Absolutely.
Which I think is, I think that is what most people are on right now, of course, is a journey. And it's funny when you look back and when you sort of say it in that way of all the things to the first time I remember meeting you and talking to you on the phone. I can still see myself sitting out by the pool and having this big chat with you and going, oh, I really feel energized with this lady. Wow. And just sort of moving in from there. And it's just another soul person in the tribe, just creating even more.
Absolutely. And as we're talking about journeys and stuff, you know, we've had a floating journey between us, but I'd love to know a little bit more about your spiritual journey. Like, where did yours start, your spiritual journey?
Well, it's quite funny that some people, you know, they ask me that, and I equate it to going back to about 8 years now when I walked away from a 20-year marriage because I'd completely lost myself. But then if I reach back even further, I can see sort of the deeper I've got into my spiritual journey, the more I can realize that I was spiritual, as we all know, from the moment I landed on this earth. Little things that I remember doing, little things that I remember hearing. But as a child, of course, I didn't recognize what that was. And then, of course, with society and how we're conditioned, you just told, oh, that's just make-believe, or that's just something else, and don't be ridiculous, that didn't really happen. But when I recognized, when I really sort of awakened, as you can say, was that time when I was completely lost. And about 8 years ago...
don't fuck up on me now.
I walked away from a 20-year marriage because I just completely lost myself. And I realized that I had to change something in my life, because if I didn't change anything in my life, I was going to just be exactly who I was for another 20 years. So I built up the courage and I did leave. And then it was a journey of finding myself. And I remember sitting and thinking to myself, where to now? Who am I? Who am I anymore? Who is Sonya? And I remember going along and looking on the internet at different things. And a lady called Juliet Lever, if some of you might know her, popped up, and she had written a book. And I thought, I'm going to buy that book and I'm going to read that book, and then I'm going to meet that lady. And that's where it all started. And I did read the book and I did meet her. And then I started doing Reiki with her. And I was totally blown away at how everything changed in my life. The moment I started to change things, everything else started to change. And from there, I went to doing workshops. I was sort of almost addicted to now trying to dig even deeper. And then I went on to do NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I signed up for all these different little things. And in between that, I was going along to little day adventures where somebody might have ran a meditation circle or something else. And I just started building. And as I call it, like the Sarah Lee effect, the layer upon layer upon layer. And it was quite interesting, because just when you think, oh, I've really been working on myself and things have been changing, you think, oh, I'm changed. I'm a changed person now, and I've worked through all my stuff. But what you realize is that you have really just scraped the surface, and the next thing you know, that something else comes along and something else comes along, and it challenges you again. So the deeper I was going into my spirituality, the deeper I was actually coming back to myself. Hello again. Hello. So the deeper I was going back to myself. So it's like this push, pull now. And now I've sort of gotten used to it, where I just go, oh, let's just dive into the rabbit hole, make sure I take my torch and my shovel, and then we'll come back out the other side. So now I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm not scared of diving even deeper into the spiritual world. So I dive in, release some rubbish, and come back out again, and then dive in and come back out. And it's like this ongoing circle now. And there's some of the greatest little quotes as I've been going through this is, this too shall pass. And it was one of the most profound little sentences that I remember when shit goes really bad. And I think, how the hell am I going to dig myself out of this one? I remember, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
Yes.
And I just go, okay, I'm just holding on for the ride, because this too shall pass. And away we go again. But I also realized that in the good times too, when everything is running really smoothly, I go, this too shall pass. So get ready. Let's do all the things. Let's dig really fast and let's get the goods, because this too shall pass. And then we'll be going down another rabbit hole somewhere along the line to learn something else. But what I've really found now is that it's a gift. It's such a gift. And I always realize that the deeper you get into this work and the more you want to do this work to help people, the more you have to endure. Because the more I endure, the more people I can help, because I can really relate and they can relate to me. I mean, if I'd never endured any of the stuff that I've endured over the past 8 years to be really awakened to it, be really aware, I would have no idea. If someone came to me and told me their problems, I go, I have no idea. I'm asleep. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know how to help you. I'm really sorry this is happening, but I have absolutely no idea. But now I can say, you know what? I know exactly how to help you with that. Because actually about 6 months ago, I just went through that myself. Or I've just come out of that hole. Let's work through that, or let me give you some ideas with that. So yeah, that's sort of where, but I really do believe that my biggest turning point, the absolute biggest turning point, which really touches my heart and it really feels like my biggest gift, was last year when I hit 50. The lead up to that year, I was in a state of anxiousness of going, I can't believe that I'm going to be 50. There's no way I'm 50. My mother's 50, but she's not 50, of course. But in my eyes, she's 50. How can I be 50? There's no way I could be 50. I don't want to be 50. I just don't want to be 50. And I was freaking out for half the year before I turned 50. But
I remember that.
Oh, the day before I turned 50, it was like everything changed. It was like this veil lifted and I just went into it. And I actually felt like I just dropped 10 years. It was really incredible. It was like this massive weight and this veil opened up and I went through this, whatever you want to call it, this portal, this doorway, this whatever. And it was like I was rebirthed into the second half of my life, because the first 50 years of my life was all the learnings. I mean, it's not that there isn't learnings on this side either, don't get me wrong. but the first half was like the first 20 years of your life is learning how to walk, talk, eat, communicate, add up, learning things at school until you get to about 20, 25. Really, that's just the learning phase on how to actually function in this body like a robot. Well, not a robot, but you know what I mean? It's like, how do I work this body? How do I walk? How do I talk? How do I communicate? How do I do all these things? So up to 25, I always see that as just learning how to work the machine or the body. And then the next 25 years is, let's see what this body can do. What can we do with it? What can we create? Usually as a woman, you usually create some kids along the way, create some relationships, learn some lessons. You might, you might go and do some daredevil adventure stuff. You might, whatever your passions are. But then I find that 50 is like the halfway mark. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to move into the next half of my life. But I'm walking into the second half of my life as an awakened being, 100% awakened. And the stuff and the thoughts and the feelings and the passions that were driving me before have faded. They're not part of the new version of myself. And at work today, we've got a couple of magazines in, and The Rock, Wayne Johnson is on the cover, and he talks about being in his 50s, and he talks about it. I thought this was so good. He talks about it as moving into the fifth dimension because he's 50. It's the fifth dimension. But I'm going, how awesome is that? We're moving into the fifth dimension, and not only in years, but also in enlightenment, also in up to the next level. So yeah, I'm really excited about the next half of my spiritual journey, and I sort of now don't have a sort of like a differentiate between what I was and who I am, or who I'm supposed to be, where I always felt for quite a while there I had one foot in the old and one foot in the new. It was like I was one foot in, one foot in the, like I was in front of a doorway and one foot was in the old door and one foot was in the new door. But now I really felt like after I hit the 50 mark and just my recent rebirthing process, as I'll call it, that I've moved, that I actually stepped through the doorway. And now it's like, this is just me. This is totally me in all my vulnerability, in all of my authenticity, in all of my integrity. And this is who I am, and this is who I'm showing up as. And you can either like it or don't like it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me anymore. Where it used to matter to me. It used to matter to me a lot. If people didn't like me, I was offended and upset, and I tried to, but why don't you like me? Let me be better. Let me show you how you can like me.
I have a funny story around that one. I'm fortunate. I'm basically at that same point, and I'm only 44. So I'm like, yay! Thank you for leading the way. Yes. I'm grateful for you. And one of my friends whose son is 16, turning 17 this year, and he goes, and she said, "Oh, I'm off to see Lorraine," and he goes, "Oh, Mum, she scares me." And she told me, and I said, good. A 16, 17-year-old should be afraid of me because I've got your back and he fucking well knows it.
Oh, wow.
And when I saw him just recently, I was over at her place and I went up to him and I said, "Can I have a hug?" And he goes, "Yes." He gives me this hug. And I said, "Was that too scary?" He goes, "No." But I just found it hilariously funny. Whereas back probably 2 years ago, I would have been in that space of going, "Oh my God, what have I done? What have I said? What have I, shit, is there something that I can do to fix that, to make it right, to, soothe things out?" But it was just like, at the end of the day, no. He's just fucking aware that I am who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. And that's kind of scary to some people. Some people see that being quite intimidating. And I'm just like, and if you're intimidated, that's your issue, not mine.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of the biggest things that I've been finding out with working with women, and now even introducing men into some of the stuff that I'm doing as well, especially into the vulnerability stuff, is that people, especially after the last, I don't know, in the vortex, but 3 years, I suppose it is, since we were all closed down in a sense, and we all had to go within and find out about ourselves. And some people have been hiding, to sort of get that gumption, if you want to call it, to say, this is me and I'm standing in my power. And I think a lot of us have been pushed into that power because we've had to stand, and we've had to stand in our power and say, yes, I want to do this, or no, I don't want to do this. And to really stand in that for the first time in our lives and actually take accountability for ourselves in all different areas, and to say, no, I'm actually not going to believe you. I'm going to do this for me. And I think that we all were walking in that, and it's all, of course, about our conditioning and the way we've been taught, and how society and schooling and everything else has been sort of taking us down a certain pathway. I think that 3 years ago there was a fork in the road, and we all sort of went, okay, so which fork am I taking? Am I going to walk down here with everybody else, or am I going to sideline and choose finally for myself? And actually, one of the things I do want to share with people is, and now I'm really being vulnerable because only my closest people to me know this, and I'm about to blurb it out to the world, but I'm an only child, and I grew up with a single mother who was a very powerful woman, beautiful, loving, caring woman, but she was also very much in her masculine, because she had to be. She had to be in the masculine. And I was the timid, quiet, shy girl, very anxious girl. So I was under the wing of my mother where it was safe, and nobody could get me under the wing of my mother. So, of course, from that perception, put my mother on the pedestal. There she is, in all the glory. Isn't she fantastic? My mother knows everything. She is godly to me. And I believed everything until just probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe, that my perception with the spiritual stuff and my learnings for myself has started to change. And I finally said, actually, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what you're saying. So there caused a little bit of the old friction, a little bit of friction there. But it was the first time. And you talk about being 44 and that, and I go, I was like 46. I've had 3 kids. I raised a family. but I still held my mother in that space. And now I finally stepped up. And I remember my mother saying to me one day when we were talking about it, she said, finally, you've got here. I've been waiting for you to get here. And I said, well, you don't just get here, Mum. It's all about the conditioning. And you kept me in a space over here. You maybe didn't consciously realize it, but subconsciously you were keeping me safe in this space. And I can now see all of her traumas, all the learnings, all the other things, which makes me feel even so much more powerful at this age, at the halfway mark, seeing all of this in full vision and now being able to step into this space and say, you know what? I'm finally speaking up for myself. I'm finally Sonya. I'm finally Sonya. I'm not the Sonya that everybody thinks I should be. I'm not this person. I'm not this person. I'm not wearing a mask here, but I'm me. And I'm showing up as me in all of me. And yes, even my mother, she has also said, oh, you don't look very happy nowadays. You used to be so bubbly and happy and laughing all the time. And I suddenly realized, wow, what a mask I was wearing. What a mask. It's like, for goodness sake, And it's really interesting when you start to understand how long you've been wearing a mask. And you just thought that was normal. You thought it was normal that everybody loved me because I was the happy-go-lucky, laughing, out there. And I could still be that person. Absolutely still be that person. But it doesn't mean I have to be it all the time. I can have my quiet times. I can have the connecting in. And yeah, so it is really interesting to finally be able to step into your space and say, you know what? This is me. This is me in all my rawness, all my vulnerability, the person who I came here as, that little baby, the naked baby that came into this world that hadn't been touched yet to anything. It's like I've just dropped all the clothing again and I've become the naked baby, but an older version, of course, but I'm the naked baby moving into that next stage. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I totally do. And I just wish to give some shout outs over there into the chats there. We've got Grandmaster who's tuning in from the US. He's got an amazing channel over there who's he does some interesting things, tests out all sorts of bits and pieces and just connects in with his audience. And then Barry Collins, who you see there, is actually Lynn from New Zealand. So she's over there, and we've got a few people just floating around, chatting in, like tuning in. So thank you and hello to everybody just tuning in and saying, and just having a watch. I appreciate you all.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's so interesting listening to your story because I can certainly relate to a lot of those aspects. And when I was doing my Lynn will eventually do her own Facebook page. She's getting there.
Absolutely.
All in good time. So with the mother thing, like I was doing my diploma of holistic counseling this year, and we got to a section on like numerology and life path numbers, and I discovered that my mother and I have the same life path number. Now, we haven't had the same sort of nice, soft, squishy, loving, gentle relationship that you and your mum had. We had quite the opposite. And I was like, I always used to wish for that nice, soft, fluffy, nurturing, kind, gives me big hugs and kisses whenever she sees me kind of mum. She was not like that with me. And when I looked at the life path number, because I was like, how the hell can we both be the same life path number? That just doesn't make sense to me. And then I looked at the attributes, and all the parts that were not relevant to me were totally relevant to her, and all the parts that weren't relevant to her were relevant to me. And a lot of what she had was the harsher aspects of being a life path number of 5. And I was like, in that moment, I suddenly got that big download going, holy crap. We have a soul agreement that we agreed to before I was born, that basically we agreed that she had to birth me, and then become the aspects that I don't wish to be, so that I can see them in practice, so I can then go, oh, I'm not choosing that because I don't like the look and the feel of that, so I'm not choosing that. Nuh-uh. No way, thank you. And I'll go off over here and be bright and bubbly and happy. But also the other awarenesses that I got around that time was that if my mum had have been the soft, kind, nurturing, huggy, give me big hugs and kisses whenever I walked into the room type of mum that I really wished to have, that I judged her so long for not being, I wouldn't have created the life that I have created. I wouldn't have the self-assurance. I wouldn't have had the independence. I wouldn't have had the gumption. I wouldn't have had the fuck you aspect to me, because I would have always been looking to her for reassurance. And I refused to do that. I was just like, I got to a certain period, I think it was in my late 20s, when I started to really not do that anymore. And it was around the end of my first marriage and stuff like that. And it was just that was when I had my internal implosion and explosion moment. That was my big, huge rebirth moment from the old to the new, was back then. And so in that moment of realizing with my mum, I was just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for being the mum that I required to be, so that I would leave home, so that I would leave the country, so that I would go off and create a life for myself that meant that I had to do it all over again and again and again, till I could actually be the healer that I'm required to be to contribute to more people in the world. Because if I'd had that soft, nurturing, loving mum, I wouldn't have left Kakahi. I wouldn't have left Taumarunui. I would have still been in the same teeny tiny little 5,000 people town, and, you know, probably been working for a builder or something like that, being an architectural draftsman or in the office or something like that for the rest of my life. And I would have, you know, grabbed some dude, and we would have had our 2.5 kids and a dog and a cat, and, you know, felt forever like I wasn't living my full life.
Which is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you're saying that you didn't get, is exactly what I got. And 30 years after you, because you said, when did you say, late 20s?
Late 20s, yeah.
30, 40, about 20 years later is where I've finally woken up now. And I'm going, now I need to live my best life. And what's really interesting is that the new place that I'm living in here, and I'm being very vulnerable right now, but at 51 years of age, this is the first home that I have ever lived in by myself. Because I moved out of my home into a place with who was going to be my husband, and we got married, and then we lived, of course, we were living together, had 3 children. And then when I left with my children, so I had children with me. And then from there, I went into another relationship, and then I still had my kids though, but then I moved in with him, and we were there. And then when I moved out of there, I had one of my sons still living with me, even though he was like a teen, late teen adult. He was living with me until just recently, till I moved in with here. So there's so many ways that I have let go of that old version of me. And now I'm stepping into this other version, and to say at 51, I'm actually finally living on my own, because all my children now have left home. So I don't have any children at home, but I'm here. And I'm thinking, wow, how it is exciting, It is exciting. And yes, loving having my own space and just being, but it's really funny because even the simplest of things, like, I'll just go shopping just for myself. And, you know, I don't have to clean the house every day because there isn't anybody messing it up. And it's like, if I want to have a naked day, I can have a naked day. I can run around the house banging my drum all day if I want to. It's like, it's the most silliest things. But I feel like I've reversed the clock and I've gone back to being 20. It's like I've just left the womb again. I know it sounds very weird, but it's like all of a sudden I've just left the womb again and I'm starting again. It's just, there's no other way I could describe it. It just blows my mind sometimes. But it's, you know how sometimes you say, oh, if I could just turn back the clock and if I knew what I knew then, I would do things differently. But that's... No, but you know, some people
I've decided. Yeah, I know. I always used to think that. And then I've just come to the realization recently, no, because you know what? I would still, for me to be able to get to where I am now, even vaguely now, even if it was earlier, I would still have to go through that crap. And I'm just like,
yes, that's right.
But it would just be sped up. I'm just like, oh my God, that would just be way more intense. No, thank you.
But this is where I now feel like I've sort of done it. I've sort of reversed the clock. It's really weird. I'm seeing all these visions of like clock workings inside in my head at the moment as I'm saying this. You know, like sometimes in movies you see the big back of the big clock, like in Batman or something, you know, with the standing behind. That's what I'm seeing in my mind right now.
Back to the future. Back to the future where he's like,
it's like I've gone back to the future. It's like I've gone back and I've come forward and I now have all this extra knowledge now because I'm truly awakened. And that's where I say about stepping into the different vortexes and stuff like that, where I've just walked in and now I'm like, I'm new again, but I've got all this knowledge. Or yes, I've got all this knowledge, or is it that I've been connected again to, like I said, when we're born into this world as the rawness, you know, we've just come from the universe. So we know we have all that download, but then, you know, as we get a little bit older, 2, 3, 4, we lose it all because, you know, it just gets disconnected. But now I feel like I've just plugged back in again. Into a sense, I've just plugged back in. I was reborn. I just plugged back in, and here I am. And it buzzes me out. It's like being high without having to take anything. You know, it's freaky. It's really freaky. And to have this, it's like, you know, when we grow up and stuff, and people go, oh, you know, you've got to get a job and you've got to do this and you've got to get married and have 3 kids or whatever, and then you buy a house and then you do this and you do that. Do you know what I mean? And now it's just like, admittedly, I do have a job because I have to pay my rent, but it's like, just do what I like and I just trust in everything. And last year I had a job, but I could only get 15 hours a week, which is bugger all, really. But money just came. Money just came because I just went, oh, well, what can I do? I just trust in it. And money just came. And I got through that. And that showed me that there is possibilities of life everywhere. So just be you, 100%. Just be you and do whatever you want to do. And it doesn't matter how old you are. And it doesn't matter how young you are. Just live life the way you want to. I did a talk on one of my live feeds of my walk and talks in the morning, and I said about living on purpose. Now, that was a double word there because purpose means a couple of different things, right? So living on purpose as in what's your purpose? What's your passion to lead you to your purpose in life? But then it was live on purpose, not like just existing. Like do it purposefully. Do it on purpose. That's the way I mean it. Do it on purpose. don't just go along with the flow of, oh, well, I suppose I just get pushed over here and I get pushed over here like a pinball. Do it on purpose.
Yeah,
you know,
living
and make
living with purpose, definitely. Yeah, that's certainly, I'm with you there.
Yeah, and just
for sure.
and just do it. Just do it. Just get crazy. Just get happy. Get fun. Have fun, and get crazy. And I bought myself a stand-up paddleboard the other day, and I'm like, I just can't wait to get that thing blown up. I'm just going to take it down the beach, and I'm just going to get on it. And I've got these skates in there that I haven't. And everybody says, "Oh my God, you're going to break your neck on those things. You can't get on those things." I go, you know what? I'm just going to trust. I'm just going to do it. Like, why do I have to be old and crusty and go, oh, I'll just sit here with my knitting needles now, I suppose. No, I'm doing things now that I haven't done since I was a kid, and I've got that same element of excitement to do them. And I'm just like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And it's funny because people they look at you and they go, oh, I think you're a bit old for that now, aren't you? And I'm like, what? What? Why? I'm not dead yet. Just do it.
Yeah, that's why I do crazy shit with my makeup. That's why I have all these different colors and stuff like that. And the number of times I received like the looks of like when I'd rock up to work and I'd have blue lipstick or green like I do today, or all that sort of stuff. And it was shock factor for them, but also just remember, I'm me, and this is actually me, and a part of me, an element. It's not all of me.
No,
because there's also the days where I'm wearing zero makeup, where I've got my hair like it was this morning when I jumped out of bed and doing a video of singing to the world. And it was so cool, like to just really give myself permission to just show up as me. And one of the things, the turning points for me was certainly around when I was doing 30-day video challenges. I did about 5 of them over about a 3-year span. And doing a 30-day video challenge where you've got to rock up every single day. The first one I did was in a Facebook group, and the rest of them were done on Facebook, so on my page. And, I rocked up. There were some days I was, in my car. There was some days I was in my bed. There was some days when I was crying my bloody eyes out because something had happened and it was just so full on. And, and I just showed up because it was important to me to A, go through the process of showing up every bloody day for 30 days. And B, it was about showing that, not everything is bright and chirpy and rainbows and unicorn farts every day. Sometimes it's raw, sometimes it's vulnerable, sometimes it means that I'm going to be crying. And it was so funny because those crying videos were the ones that tracked the most. They were the ones that got the most views. And I'm just like, why is that? What is that about, And so just a sidetrack just a little bit.
Yeah.
Grandmaster was talking that apparently his words are, my mum ditched us last year. So I'd just like to just ask you, Grandmaster, and this is just something for you to ponder, what is the gift in her leaving? Because there could be some element, like what we were talking about earlier, of the way that our mums were for us was exactly what we required to create who we be now. There's an element of Sonya being an absolutely incredible mum. She's so soft and kind and caring and loving with her kids, and she's there for her kids in a way that, I haven't been raised to be like that. So for me, I would have been quite a tough mum if I had been able to have kids. But, my kids, obviously our kids have all been raised with respect and all of that going on too. But our parenting styles would have been quite different because of how we were raised. So just have a little ponder to yourself and see what awarenesses you gain maybe do some journaling or whatever around what is the gift of mum leaving? What is the gift I'm not seeing here? Because there's a reason why. Okay.
Can I just add to that, Loren?
Yeah, please do.
So just what you were saying about, yes, you're absolutely correct. I was the give all loving mother. I still love, I'm a loving mother, don't get me wrong. But what I did realize that, and what I've realized recently in the last year or two, is that my mother, love her, don't get me wrong, love my mother, but there was a level of control because, of course, she was the only one there. And so then I became controlling with my children too. And my boys, because they're boys, they're not girls, they're boys. Boys don't stand for women trying to control them. They're very much, from a very young age, told me exactly what they thought about me controlling them. So I have to admit that in the last couple of years, I have changed my parent style and I have pulled back and I have been a little bit more in the tough love. Definitely still have so much love for my kids, and usually it breaks my heart on the other end, but have really stepped out of that feeling of thinking that I've got all the control with my children's lives, and I've moved it into a space of the compassion and the sharing and just knowing that I'm here when you need me. But other than that, the choices that you make are yours to choose, but so are the consequences that come with those things. And I'm no longer going to own those. And yeah, that was something that was a big change. And you know, it was really hard to do that. But I could see that I needed to change my style, because otherwise I was going to end up in the same space that I was in with my mum, that my kids would get to a point where they wouldn't be able to step into their own power. And they actually taught me that, my boys. They taught me that by pulling away a little bit. They taught me how to step into that space. So not only do we learn from our parents, but we actually learn our biggest lessons from our kids, which is a really hard one. Our ego doesn't like that at all. Not at all.
I wonder, like my mom was just so not into the spiritual energetics world at all. She's so, as you say, 3D. And I'm like going, I wonder what her opinion would be of this conversation. It's not a conversation I'm about to have with her, and that's okay. Just a quick shout out. Good morning to Carol Cook, who is tuning in from the north of England.
Ooh.
So around the world. And of course, Leanne from Adelaide from Amazing Life Strategies. So awesome. Hi to you all. Hello, hello, hello. All right, question number 2.
Okay.
So I would like to ask, we've sort of touched on it here and about, but what does consciousness mean to you?
Oh, that someone's breathing. No. Well, actually, in saying that, it's actually a true thing to say that someone is breathing. And when I say breathing, I mean being fully aware of the breath. They're actually breathing. Because when I think about when I left my marriage, it was 2 weeks after I moved out that I all of a sudden went and took this massive breath. And I realized that I hadn't really been breathing properly. I was just shallow breathing, just to keep myself alive, just, but to really breathe down into the depth. And for me, that's being very conscious, being aware of the simplest of things, like your breath, because as I used to say to everybody, your breath is your life force. And if you don't breathe, you're not here, because you take your first breath and you'll take your last breath, and you've got all these breaths in between. So are you using up all those breaths just with this shallow breathing, just looking around, being in that state of fight and flight? Or are you actually appreciating that breath of and feeling that life force within your body and feeling it as it runs through every ounce of your body, every cell of your body, that it carries that oxygen around throughout your body. And then as you release that breath out, you're releasing out all the toxins. For me, that's conscious. For me, that's like really the depth of being conscious, is being fully aware of that. Because, you know, people talk about, oh, I want to speak to a conscious person, like, you know what I'm talking about. In other words, you're on the same page as me. You understand if I said the word universe, you know what that means. But that's, I mean, you couldn't have said the word universe 10 years ago. If you said to someone, oh, yeah, you know, the universe, and they start looking at you, what are you, crazy? Are you on drugs? Have you taken your medication today? They wouldn't have understood a word we were talking about. They would speak in some other language.
I'll just roll up my tinfoil hat for you and you can just chuck that on your head.
Come in here, let me show you. But for me, if I'm going to go deep with that question, that is for me, because coming back into the consciousness, into yourself, into your own consciousness, to feel within, feel alive, because let's be real, the whole universe is within us. We are so conditioned to look outside for the consciousness, look outside for the universe, look outside for everything. And I've really been, these last 6 months especially, I've been really coming right back into that whole breath inside of me, to be conscious in there. Yeah. So that's what conscious is for me.
Absolutely freaking love that. And I love that question because every single person, and we are, I think you're like guest number 17 or something like that. Every single one of you has said something different. 18.
Well, it would be. It would be, though, because it would be something different for everybody.
And that's why I just love that question, because for me it's slightly different again, but I just love that you've got that angle on it. I'm like, I totally agree with you on that one too. I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, and I know.
And you know what
Sorry, go.
Sorry. And you know what I love about that is, if you had asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, is that right? Is that the right answer? I would have been in that sense of going, oh, that's what I think, but is that right? Is that what you think? Do I get a tick on that, or did I get a cross? And you know, now I'm like, stand in it. That's what I think. That is what comes to mind with me. And it's not about being wrong or right. There's no wrong or right anymore. And this is where I get so excited with people, because I go, oh my God, it's like all of a sudden that the test marking, you know, like at school, of course, again, here we go, the conditioning, marking off your test, wrong, fail. You didn't listen, you didn't understand. I went, well, actually, maybe I understood better than what you do. Maybe I have a different perception of it. But now to be in this space and go, you know what? I don't have to be right and I don't have to be wrong. It just is. It is whatever it is, and it is whatever I believe it to be. And you don't have to agree with me. As one of my things that my mother used to say, let's agree to disagree. Yes. Great. Because I don't have to agree. I don't have to agree what's going to be right or wrong for that answer. And, you know, what's so funny is that when you let go of that, when you really let go of that thinking that you've got to be right or otherwise you're going to be wrong, you actually can come from that space in yourself, that in your heart space, your true wisdom within yourself. You can come from that with full confidence and go, yeah, this is it. This is it. And you can believe it or don't believe it. It doesn't actually matter, because it's just my belief. Yeah. So, yeah, I love that too.
Yeah. And I find it really interesting in that, like, my partner and I, we've been doing a tarot course together, and he's working from his perspectives of what he's seeing in the tarot, and the tarot are incredibly detailed and they can give you so much information, and often his awarenesses are not the same as mine. And so I'll ask that question, like, may I share what I can see? And it's not to make him wrong. It's like, no, I agree with everything that you've said there, and this is also what I see.
Yes.
and I add another little bit of a layer. And he's like, oh. And then there's other times he goes, well, I don't really see that. And that's where he's learning to stand even further in his potency and power and awareness too. And I just love that. And, you know, the growing of us both through this journey has just been so amazing. And it's just like, I'm so grateful to have a conscious, aware, masculine, balanced masculine man in my world, you know. It's like,
yes, I do.
I can breathe. When you were talking about when you left that last, like your marriage there, it reminded me of when my last long-term relationship, and I left there and I moved into the little place that I have now. And I remember it was like a couple of days and I'd unpacked most things, you know, enough to be comfortable anyway. And there was just this moment of just going, like, I don't have any of his stuff hanging over me anymore. I don't feel like I have to walk on eggshells anymore. I don't feel like, you know, I'm not, there was so much of that energetic vibration of his temper tantrums that were just imprinted into the cells of that house that were not here. And so I was finally able to relax. And I just felt my whole body going, oh, thank you. We are here. You know,
exactly.
And it was just one of those moments. I get the breath thing. It's just like, and it's like you don't realize just how tense you were until it's gone. And it's like suddenly everything just goes, oh, and then you, on reflection, you can see it. And you go, holy crap. And then for me, I also go, shit, look how strong I was. You know, there's an incredible amount of strength and resilience that is required to hold that space for that amount of time. For me, it was like 3.5, nearly 4 years. And I was like, gosh, that's an interesting choice to make. But wow, look at the gifts in that. You know, a lot of people can go into the trauma drama and the victim of it. And I just go, no, look at the gifts. Wow. Look at the insights. Look at the awarenesses. Look at the healing that I've done because of that relationship. Yay. Thank you.
Sometimes I think that you can't see that at first, because I must admit, I spent half my life in that marriage and came out with some wonderful children. And it's not until the last probably 2 years, 3 years maybe, that I realized what a gift that was now. Yeah. You know, for a long time, I was in that victim mode. For a long time, I was like, oh, the hell did this happen to me? You know, I gave my everything. Why did I have to put up with this shit, you know? But when you can actually step out of that and you can really look back and even I can see, you know, sometimes I actually am embarrassed because I think about who I was in that space. I was not the person I am today. I was not the calm person. I was the neurotic, yelling, screaming mother, like just full on ego, full on, you know, and, you know, I think of who I am today. And I mean, look, there are moments, of course, when that will unleash in us, you know, it's still there, but you know, it's very few and far between, because I don't allow certain triggers to trigger me anymore because I've learned what they are. And I would sort of swap into more of a compassion field now, going, wow, mirror, mirror. Like, really, what are you mirroring to yourself right now? What can you see? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? You know, it's that whole thing of what am I seeing right now? The mirror is so potent, I feel. And it's one of my new favorite sayings is that, you know, mirror, mirror, who's the fairest of them all? Like, look into that mirror and actually see, are you that wicked witch? Or are you Snow White? You know, I know we're going back to the bit of fairy tales and, you know, we've grown up with them and some of them are fantasies, but there are some real lessons in some of those things, you know, like that mirror on the wall. Like if you look deep enough within yourself, what are you really seeing? What is being shown, reflected back to you within someone else? And then what are you reflecting to that person that they need to change? And it's quite interesting and also frustrating when you know these things and you tell them to someone else, even like your family, and you tell them and they just don't get it at all. And you just want to stick a mirror there and go, look, just look in there. What do you see? You know, what are you seeing? But they'd be just like, oh, I don't know. I look pretty good today. You know, they're not seeing beyond the mask. They're not seeing beyond that. And that's the most exciting part, is when you work with people and you teach them about the mirror and you hear about their experiences of when they start seeing beyond the mask, beyond that. And it's just like, wow, this is so amazing, you know, to watch that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And Leanne said that she loves the hidden gifts we eventually receive from first perceived stresses. Now, Leanne actually does emotions and metaphysical kinesiology. And that's a really interesting modality that she's trained for it very intensely to do. And I've received one of her sessions and they're just off the charts. And it was rolling through my world for a good couple of weeks after that session. It was just like, wow. And she tapped into some stuff for me that was happening around when I was 4 years old that I haven't thought about. But it was showing up as like cramping in my foot, which was tapping into one of my spleen meridian. And it was just like, whoa. So if you're in Adelaide, seriously, and you'd like to have, you know, just an incredible session that is really gentle, I would definitely hook up with Amazing Life Strategies in there. So yeah, she's amazing. She's got a Friday. She does bookings on Fridays. So just a little shout out.
That's it. That's always an adventure for those things. It's always good to try something different too.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is that I've come to realize I spent 5 years very intensely in access consciousness, and I'm so grateful for my time in access consciousness. And then during that 5 years, I cut out everything else. I cut out my card work, I cut out my crystals, I cut out my angel stuff, I cut out everything else, and I just focused on that body of work, that modality for 5 years straight. And again, incredibly grateful for that time, because I was just so absorbed that I've got so much of that just flows through my world constantly, and the tools are amazing. And then the other tools started creeping back in. And it was just like, now I'm in a space where I have so many tools to help with, like you were saying at the start of the show, those moments where we're having to dive really fucking deep. And it's like, I've got tools from all sorts of modalities, and I've got friends who dive and delve with all sorts of different modalities that are there to help and to support me through those moments where I'm going through those big shifts and changes, you know. And I think the more tools we can learn, the better set up we are for those big shifts and changes that happen in our world. You know, it's like those moments where I've done, you know, the moon circles with you and the breath work and all that sort of stuff. Is just like so cool to me that I've got a friend like you that can do breath work and, you know, these ceremonial spaces. And I'm just like, fucking hell yes. More of that, please. Because it's another element of healing that just taps into another vibrational area, you know, because we are all multiple layers and we require all sorts of different practitioners and healers and guides and all sorts of things to deal with all these different areas. That's why the medical profession is split up into so many different areas, because our body is lots of different areas, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I must admit, when I was talking earlier and you like lost your internet and then you came back on, but I had said in that time about, when I first started with Juliet Lever, and I started with Reiki, and then I did some NLP, and then added other bits and pieces on. I said it was like the Sarah Lee effect, the layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and you just keep on layering up all the time. You just add to your collection. And I must admit that when I had all of those other tools, it wasn't until I went with Ben Clark and did the breath work that it was like, I'd created this, like we talk about create the foundations, if you've got a strong foundation and then you build your walls in the house. And I equated it to a cake. So, I had the cake and I had, the strawberries on there and the cream around the top or whatever it was, but it wasn't until I did the breath work that it completely iced the cake. And it was like then everything else I did, the meditation sessions I was doing, the circle work I was doing, the moon ceremonies, just even in card readings with people, just coaching with people, that I would always bring in that breath work, because bringing them back to the breath. And I found that the breath work was the biggest gift that I had learnt, how to teach people to breathe. And I just couldn't stop the excitement and that elated feeling of thinking, oh my God, like it was almost like it was the missing piece of the puzzle, that I could do all those other things, but I always felt like, I just feel like there's something missing here. There's something I'm not being able to give to people. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to know every single possibility of modalities to able to help somebody, but I just felt there was something missing. And the moment I did that breathwork facilitator course, it was like, that's it. That's what it is. And then everything changed. And my sessions changed, people changed, and people just learned how to breathe. It was here we go. You know what it was like? I just resuscitated everybody. It was like, I just resuscitated everybody, being able to breathe, teach them how to breathe, like, woof. It was just amazing. And I just love teaching it. And and I'm not going to mention her name, but there's a beautiful young girl that I have been working with. And she was doing an exam for like uni, and she was very stressed about it. And I worked with her probably 2 sessions in breath work and taught her how to breathe and did some visualization within that. And she passed with flying colors, because it brought her back to that space, not in that fight and flight, but coming back into that space of being within her own self. And even now, we'll still talk. And if something arises, and I come back into the breath, let's come back into that breath. And I think if there was one thing that I could take away from all of the things, it's the breath. And actually, I can feel it in my body right now. Even just as I'm thinking it, even as I'm feeling it in my body, I feel it right there in the chest. It's that breath, because that breath is so important. You breathe life into someone else. When you help them, when you resuscitate them, in a sense, you breathe that life back into them. Well, they're breathing it, but you're teaching them, and you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to give them mouth to mouth. It's okay. But you are. And I suppose I don't want to get controversial or political or whatever, but I have to say that working where I work, when I see hundreds of customers come through my door every day, I really struggle with the masks, with the breath, because for me, the breath is the most important thing. is that being able to breathe. Just bring that breath in, that cleansing, beautiful breath, and release all the toxic breath from your body. Release all of that other toxins from out of your body. Yeah. And so it sort of kicks me in the heart every time. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong for people to do it or do whatever. There's no judgment on it at all, but it hits home for me, because I'm like, I think I breathe a bit deeper when people come around me. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I'm just going to breathe it in. I'm going to breathe in that breath.
You, man.
Yes, yeah. Let me breathe for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so you've touched on a little bit there of some work that you do with your clients, but what is the aim of your business? Your beautiful business, Connecting Souls Wellness. Like, what is the aim?
Well, it's funny because years ago when I remember walking the dog once, and I was just starting out, it was like, oh, get a business name. What am I going to call this? I've got to have an identity, like, what is it that I'm doing? And I remember walking along and being very open to receiving, and then boom, just like, as I always call it, like it just dropped in. Sometimes I feel like I just get hit on the head all the time, just like, oh, thanks. Just these moments just drop in. It's like, oh, hello. It's like a download, if you want to call it. And I remember connecting souls, just the words connecting souls came into my head. I was like, connecting souls. And I just mulled it around a little bit, connecting souls. Boom. Love it. Because what I realized in that very moment was it was about connecting souls, as in connect yourself to your soul. Because so many people are disconnected from their soul. Basically, they're unconscious, right? We need to get you conscious. So connecting souls is about connecting to yourself. But then the bigger picture was connecting souls, connecting other people to other people, connecting like-minded souls together in a space. And through the internet, and of course, lots of people have similar names and stuff. And there was a band called Connecting Souls. So yeah, it all gets a bit weird. So I jumped in with the wellness on the end. So Connecting Souls Wellness. So that's how the name came about. But the core of my business is exactly that, is connecting souls. Being an only child, being a person who was always trying to fit in somewhere, being a person who sometimes felt that she was very alone, because I was always the happy one, because that's what I'm attracting. I need to attract people. So I'll be, oh, look at me, I know, funny. Oh. But always trying to, and I realized this even in relationships, I was always fitting into their lifestyle, not creating mine and attracting things to me. I was fitting into everybody else's. And what I realized was that I needed to connect with like-minded souls, even myself. And that's one of the reasons why I started the meditation circles, was because I wanted, it was like, if you build it, they will come.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. I was really craving for some new friends. I was craving, my best friend lived miles away up in the Adelaide Hills, so I couldn't see her all the time, as much as we spent a lot of time together. But, when you're working, it's like, I'd really just love to get up on a Saturday morning and go for a walk down the beach, because I was on the western side then. Well, I still am, but, I'd really love to. So I'm like, well, how am I going to meet people? Hey, how are you going? So I was like, well, I'll create a meditation circle, and then people will come, and then I can get to know people. And then from there, what builds from there? And so many people I talk to of all ages, especially women, tell me how lonely they are. They go, oh, I just don't have friends. How do you make friends? And I say through connections, through connecting with people. So my biggest purpose is, although it is to help people to teach them how to heal. I can't heal anybody.
No.
I'm not a magician. People have to heal themselves. They have to be open to receiving everything. But what I can do is I can connect them to different modalities. I can teach them how to be relaxed, teach them how to breathe, and I can connect them with other like-minded people, because as we know, if we are around high energy, and you've heard this in all of the success manuals, and it doesn't matter whether you're spiritual or not spiritual, any of the positive people, what do they call them? The positive talk, positive thinkers, even in the corporate world, and I was in the corporate world for a long time, the biggest things that any of those speakers up there would tell you was, you are the 5 people that you hang around. That's who you become. Doesn't matter. You could just be some top salesperson. They'd have no idea about spirituality. But that was the same thing. 5 people you hang around, that's what you become. So if you hang around the druggies, you'll become a druggie. If you hang around the successful people, you become successful, because you become what you're around. The energy, it's magnetized. You get absorbed into that energy, right? So that's what I wanted to create. I want to create a circle of energy that is so white in its light, that it is so energized with, I'm not going to say with positivity, because yes, it's going to be positive, but with everything is the polarization, the light with the dark, the up with the down, the right with the left. You cannot just be in this full strength of positivity all the bloody time, because you just can't. It just doesn't happen. You have to have the other. And as I say to people, that's why, like you, on my lives, people see me cry, people see me scream, people see me get things, but then people see me happy, people see me joyful, because I'm showing all the elements. And what I want to create is this circle of light that is radiating everything to hold you in a safe space. My biggest thing is becoming a safe space holder, that you can become 100% vulnerable within yourself to show up exactly as yourself. Not a mask wearer, not a judger, not a nothing. You just show up as your full, authentic self. That's my biggest thing, is to be able to have that space, the safe space holder, really.
What a fucking glorious invitation. Seriously.
And it's funny, because I think that was one of the things that I always crave, is a safe space.
Yeah.
And I feel that emotion coming up, even as I'm saying that. It's that I want to be in a safe space. I want to know that I'm safe. So I'll create that for others, which then I'm creating it for myself at the end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things we women do incredibly well, is when we look after others, we actually look after ourselves too. And,
absolutely.
It's like, as mums, we will stay in a shitty relationship for a really long time. But as soon as the shitty relationship starts impacting on the kids, that's it. Game's off. We're out of there. And the kids too, So, yeah. Hi, Annette. And Grandmaster was agreeing with your business aims. He loves that. Safe spaces, etc. And Leanne was talking about so many people unconsciously hold their breath during daily activities or during their sleep. Apparently Lynn feels a bit the same, that she's learning how to breathe deeply. In high school, I played in the concert band. So I learned how to breathe diaphragmatic breathing. And so for me, that's actually really normal to breathe diaphragmatically, which for those people who don't know, that's breathing right down to the base of your stomach. So you'll see that when I'm breathing, you'll often not see my shoulders move, because my breath is going really low. And when you're breathing high in your chest, you'll see people when they do that, they'll go, and it's like you can see their shoulders moving. And that's a really big indication that they're breathing really high and short. And when they're breathing high and short, they're setting off the stress hormones in the brain, which is adding to that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. The 4 R's, right? So it's like when you breathe low and into your belly, which Sonya would absolutely know way more about this than I do. It allows the brain to flip over between stress hormones down to happy hormones, and just calms everything down, calms those neural pathways down, and it makes the body and the muscles themselves relax, which then helps us to have higher immunity and, all that sort of thing. So, yay. Aw, they're loving us. Apparently, we're interesting. I love it. So, I would love to know, you've been through quite an interesting journey with your spiritual journey, and, some of those rides have been the roller coaster of being high highs and low lows. And I would love to know, you can tackle this from either a spiritual side or a business side, whichever way works best for you, whichever way you'd like to answer. What sort of top tips would you give to somebody starting their either spiritual or business journey or business journey?
Wow. The words that are coming to my mind right now, the biggest one that just dropped in right now is trust. Trust. You have to trust. A lot of emotion around that word. I feel the water welling in my eyes, even just in that, because trust for me has been such a massive thing. I have never trusted. I have only ever been control about myself, even controlling, like, I've got this, I can do this, I can do. Again, it's a learned behavior. It's been a learned behavior. But to physically 100% trust and surrender. And that's been a thing that I've been working on for about 2 years now. And the way I see myself is down on one bended knee, arms up in the air, surrender. Now, when I say surrender, it's not like I'm waving the white flag, that's it, I give in, I can't do it anymore. It's not that kind of a surrender. It is, I am so trusting right now that everything that is happening, good or bad, is in the divinest moment, timing. Everything is happening for a reason, that I'm going to surrender to everything, the good and the bad. Because I have been working, I actually sometimes feel like a fraud when I say I've been working in this business because it's, again, here's the conditioning, like, I'm not making $1 million from my business right now. Do you know what I mean? It's still very much in its infancy. But what I do realize is that over the past 5 years of, I'll call it dabbling, let's call it dabbling, but it has given me the most incredible lessons and learnings to get me to where I am. So if you're going to go into something that you want to call, look, spirituality and your business, if you're working in a so-called spiritual business, it isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a it is a lifestyle. It is like you become the monk of your own business. You do it for the love. Yes, you get paid. Yes, you need to charge for your time. Yes, your time is valuable. You invest thousands of dollars in time and energy into learning these processes to be able to help others. That is at a value. That is a value. Everything in life is a value. Whether that be a monetary value or an exchange value or something, it's got to be value. So always make sure that you value yourself Absolutely, 100%. You have to value in what you're doing, and you have to value in yourself that you are of value. You have to trust. You have to 100% trust that no matter what comes your way, no matter what gets fired at you, you just keep trusting. Because if it is coming from the soul and it's coming from your passion and purpose, just trust. Because sometimes you have to cut through a jungle to get to the paradise on the other side. You just have to. And the surrender. You have to surrender. You have to surrender over, because sometimes you cannot control everything. And actually, the more you try to control everything, the more out of control everything becomes. You know, poof, that's it. And I always know that in myself, because as soon as like the legs start to get a bit wobbly on the train, the freight train, I realize, I'm trying to steer. I can't steer. Actually, there's a fantastic song out, actually. I very much connect in with music, because I'm like you. I played music when I was young, but music is the soul. It's to the heart of, music hits the heart of the soul. And there's a song that's called Jesus Take This Wheel. And it's, I can't remember her name, but she's the blonde country and Western singer. I think she originally started on one of those singing shows. What is her name? She sings a song with Keith Urban. Oh my God. She is, I love her. She's very religious. Like, she sings a lot of godly songs, but she's in the top things. But Jesus Take This Wheel, she talks. And I love country music because there's always a story to the song.
Carrie Underwood.
Yes. Carrie Underwood. She's the most gorgeous looking, but also wholesome soul being. Like, she is just awesome. And she sings this song, and I listen to it when I feel like I'm spinning out of control. I listen to that song, because basically the story in the song is about a lady's driving along, and I think she might be pregnant or she's got a baby in the back. But anyway, actually she's got a baby in the back. She's driving along, and I think she's had a fight with her partner or something. So her head's not in the game. So she's not conscious. She's in that fight and flight mode, and it's raining or something. Anyway, she hits this bit of water or something, and she spins. And she just goes, the song is like, Jesus Take This Wheel. So she lets go of the steering wheel. And the song is, Jesus Take This Wheel. Like, basically that is the full-on surrender. It's like, I surrender. Just take the wheel for me. I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to try to control this situation here. I'm going to let it go. And God, it hits home. It hits so home. And I have howled myself to high heavens when I have heard that song sometimes. And I've just felt it all. I felt all of it within my body. And I've done the ugly cry with that song. But I tell you, it is the most powerful song ever, to just realize that, just let go. Just let go and stop trying to steer the bus, because you can't steer the bus. You can.
It's all been written before.
Yes, exactly. And it's the hardest thing, because we're taught to control everything. We're taught how to, it's such a hard one sometimes, because yes, we have to have a purpose. We have to have a vision. We have to do certain things. You can't just kick back and go, I don't really know. Just whatever happens, happens. Because that's what you'll get. You'll get whatever leftovers. It's like throwing out the bin water. It's like, that's what you're going to get. But if you actually want something and you want it to come to you, you've got to put the work in. You've got to do the work with your visualizations, with your manifesting. But then you've actually got to take action. You can't just go, oh yeah, I'll visualize it. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to, sit by the pool or whatever your thoughts are. And it's just miraculous. The genie comes along and poof, here's your 3 wishes. It doesn't happen like that, but you've got to put the work in, because there's a journey along the way to get there. I mean, now there is no time travel that I'm aware of. You can't just go, I'd like to be in Paris tomorrow, and just go, here I am. I'm in Paris. Bonjour, bonjour. You know what I mean? You've got to take the journey. You've got to get on the plane. You've got to take the journey to get to the other side. So if your destination with whatever you want from your business or your life or your spiritual life or whatever that is, whatever you want to change in your life, there's a journey that's going to go with that. You have to get on a plane, or you get in a car, or you just walk there, but you've got to go there. You can't just miraculously appear there. And that journey is going to set yourselves up for where you're going. Because I can't stand here and go, oh, I want to be there. And it comes back again to the mirror, reflecting, what do I want to see? It's like right now, I have a vision in my head of who I want to be. Yes, I want to be a better eater. I want to be more physical activity again. I want to be fun. You know, like I said, you know, I've got my blow up paddleboard, and I can visualize, and I can see myself living this life. Oh, I'm eating all the wonderful foods, and I'm healthy, and I'm a lot fitter, and I'm making time out, scheduling time out for my yoga and my weights and my bike riding and you know, camping and all these things that I want to do. I can see that life. But am I living that life right now? No. Can I click my fingers and that just appears? No. But what I can do is I can set it up in my mind. I can visualize what I want it to be. And then I have to put the action in place. So I've got to take the destination. I've got to take the journey to get there. So that journey means that I have to do the shopping to buy that wonderful food, to eat that food, instead of being lazy and just throwing some chicken nuggets, or not chicken nuggets, chicken wings into the air fryer or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like I have to set myself up for that. And then I have to carve time out to go to my yoga, to go to the gym, to do the other things. And then once I start carving, and it doesn't have to be a jump journey, you can take little trips. You might be like, oh, I do a little road trip here for 3 days, and then I do another little road trip for 5 days. But the journey in itself to get to where you want to be, the destination where you want to be is the journey. And it might take you a couple of road trips to get there. Like the first road trip might be the eating for me. This is my journey, right? This is my thing. For me to be in the purpose of where I want to be on my journey with my food, I got to take a road trip, right? Then the next road trip. Yeah, to the supermarket. No, I go to the supermarket. Market,
or setting up with a co-op, a fruit and veggie co-op, or whatever.
That's it. But then the next journey, my next little journey will be getting to the gym on a regular thing. So you can see how things start to change, and this changes, and then that changes. And then when you do get to that destination, and then you look and you go, oh, I'm here. I've arrived. It might have taken me 6 months, but I've arrived. Mm-hmm. Now I'm where I am. But don't wait too long, because then you go, oh, where am I going now? Where's my next destination? Because that's not the end of the line. That's just part of your journey. That's a short journey in the big journey. Because we all know that our journey never ends until it does end.
Yes.
Yeah. So you never want to stop. And Matthew McConaughey says it really well. Who's your hero? It's me 10 years from now. And he keeps chasing that 10 years. And then 10 years' time, they go, have you caught your hero? And he goes, oh, God, no. That hero's me in another 10 years' time. And so he is evolving every 10 years. But then when he does get to that space, he goes, no, that's not me, because now he's up the ante. Oh, no, it's me in another 10 years, because he's changed the destination now, changed it. And he says, I'll never get to be that hero, because, you know, you've got to have something always to work towards. And it's the same thing in the business. It's the same thing in your spiritual journey. It's the same thing in life. It doesn't matter what it is. The same things apply all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree. I completely agree.
You don't have to.
No, I don't have to. But that's the thing, is like the people that I have on this show are people of very similar minds. It's sometimes with different words, and different structures of those words. But you all have said very similar things. And I love that, because it's like there'll be someone in my audience tonight that will be able to receive what you've said way better than what somebody else on another show said. And it's like that's the gift of doing this show.
Yes.
And by asking these questions and having these base questions that we work from, is like every single one of you is going to have your own beautiful, unique spin on it. Right. And so the fact of the matter is that the first thing you said, the top tip for life, spiritual, business journey, is trust in yourself. Right. And I can certainly relate that to when I'm in my healing room. And for many years, this was the case. When I was in my healing room, my trust is at 110%. Like whatever happens in that room, I know exactly what to do. I know that even if I don't, thinking about it, know what to do in the moment, I will know. I will know what tool to use, even if I've never used that fucking tool before. It'd be better for me to grab and go with it and just play. And, it didn't matter. Right? I just knew, I trusted, and I still do trust 110%. What has been part of my journey over the last couple of years, especially, is applying that same skill of trust to my everyday life.
Yes. And that's the hardest one.
And being able to trust things like my awarenesses when they pop up around certain things, especially when it's to do with other people's actions. And it's like, there was a really simple one that cropped up a couple of weeks ago with our rubbish bins. And we've had a little bit of a funny thing with my next door neighbor. And like, they've got a massive, huge chunk of grass verge that they could put their bins on. But because they have so many bins, they put 2 of them down my end of their grass verge. And they've spoken to my partner about it before, said, oh, you don't touch my bins, I don't touch your bins, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It's not relevant to me. But
it's just a bin.
It's just a fucking bin. I don't care. Anyway, he put out the bin on technically their side of my driveway. And my awareness was something's going to happen to that bin. I was like, something's going to happen. I don't know what, but something's going to happen. And I didn't say anything because I was like, because it was sort of bringing out one of those other strange trigger points of, him cracking off at me going, not that he's done that, but it's past relationship stuff of him cracking off at me going, what, don't you think I even know how to put out a fucking bin or something? Like, do you think I need to be micromanaged? Like, do you just want to do it so much better than me? Because that's what I had for like 3.5 years, So it was like, it's just sort of, So I didn't say anything. The next day, my partner went off to work, sends me a picture going, cheeky bastards, right? Because the next door neighbors had gone and filled up our recycling bin, which is the one that he put out, with rubbish bags. And our bin was already pretty full. So now it was overflowing. And I was just like, I knew something was going to happen to the bin. And I didn't say anything. That's interesting. And that was that nice, gentle sort of nudge from my team, nudge from the universe to go, this is the way you're not showing up for yourself in your everyday life. Take note of this. And so I spoke with him about it. And I spoke to him as to why I didn't say anything. And he's like going, oh, wow. And I said, so from now on, I'm making that bloody commitment to myself. If I have these awarenesses, no matter what your feedback might be, what your response might be, I'm going to say something.
Yes.
And
yes.
Like, okay, good. Do that. So it's like bringing that trust from my healing room to my everyday life. and especially into my personal relationship, because it's like that's the one area which is a little bit like still working through some crinks, you know, from old stuff. Not with this, like the new relationship that I've got is great. And there's some wibble wobbles you always get there. You've got two very individual people coming together, and, you know, you're always going to have some stuff going on there. But, you know, just working out those trigger points from past relationships, that can sometimes be the hard part. You know, things thought that, like, I've dealt with that, I've healed that, I've processed that. No.
Mirror, 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 mirror. Look in the mirror. What are you seeing? What's it showing you? But it's so true with that. I'll just share with you the other week I was doing a Zoom call for my vulnerable warrior, and I had all these notes that I'd written down, and I just had a brief read through them before, and I haven't done a Zoom for quite some time, so it was new again, and I didn't even really know how to. I'm hosting my Vulnerable Warrior Masterclass, and I'm so vulnerable, I'm not really sure how to use the program. So I've just put it up, and I'm going, okay, well, I've got a bit of an idea, and, you know, I was working it out. But then I couldn't work out how to share on my page my notes so that I knew what I was going off of. So I was like, holy crap, I can't get this on here. I've got no notes. I've got absolutely no notes of this whole masterclass. I am going to have to go in blind, and I had to trust. Like you say, when you go to the treatment room, and I'm the same, and I've been doing this a lot myself, I will go in cold turkey into circles, meditations, whatever, because I trust. I so trust now. And I trusted. I just went, you know, it's a bit like, you know, when you get on a treadmill and you do the first 5 minutes, and you get in the first 5 minutes and you feel a bit awkward, and it's a bit like until you get the momentum going. And then after that, you're just like striding along, and you're like, yeah, I'm powerful. I'm just like, whoosh. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the trust. The first couple of minutes, you might be like, oh, I feel a bit wobbly. I'm completely trusting right now, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's like all of a sudden then your, as I call it, your lotus flower opens up, boom, comes down all the information like in this downloaded waterfall whoosh, into your head, and your mouth just starts moving, and you start talking. And you start going into whatever it was. And then, you know, and I'm working this on there, and I'm going, I have no idea what I'm talking about right now. I mean, I do, but it's not me talking. You know what I mean? I've just put my 100% trust into the universe to go, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. Just use me as the vessel. Basically, it's like, use me as the vessel. And it all comes out. And, you know, at the end of it, everybody's like, wow, that was fantastic. I never even thought about that stuff. And I go, I'd have to watch that back.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, I'll have to watch that back for myself, because I know in the moment I could feel it all. But if and I'm doing it again, and I'm going, I don't know what I said. Because I 100% trusted for it all just to flow through. And I knew what I wanted to get across from my heart space. So I trusted in my heart, I trusted in the universe, and I trusted in the download, because, you know, being connected from the soul to the universe, yeah, like channeling Amazing Life Strategies. That's exactly right. It's the channeling. You just go boof and just let it channel. And the more I do that, again, Jesus, take the wheel. Mm-hmm. Let go of the steering wheel, trying to control how it's going to flow, how that situation is going to flow, and just let go of the steering wheel and just go, I'm here, I'm traveling, and just let it happen. And the more I do that, the better the outcome. When I try to write too much crap down on the piece of paper, and then I'm like looking at it, and I'm all over the place, because I'm not trusting. I'm too in my head instead of being in my heart space. Instead of coming from my heart, coming from love and trust, I'm coming from control and writing it down on the book.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm tending to now just go, but again, once again, comes back to conditioning. You know, you need to be organized. You need to have structure. You need to have this. You need to have that in life. You know, this is what we're told. You'll never get anywhere in life if you're not in structure, if you've got no direction in your life whatsoever. What are you doing? You know, this is what we were told. I can remember a computer person telling me back in the day when I was in high school, because I wasn't mathematical, and I'm still not. You know, I can add up, but you know, writing programs, forget it. And I remember him saying to me, "Do you know, Sonya, you're never going to get anywhere in life with computers if you don't know how to write a program." And I just looked at him. I said, "I don't think so. I think I'll do just fine." So I thought, and I believed it in my soul. I was like, I don't think so. I'm not here to be a computer geek. Like, I don't want to write programs. That's not my bag. You know, and it's that structure that, you know, we've been pushed into these boxes of going, you know, in the schooling of, you know, you must learn all of this stuff because otherwise you'll get nowhere. But the only thing you really need to do is surrender, trust, and let go, and just follow your heart. Yeah, and you'll actually get space. You'll get places. I mean, you only need to look at these entrepreneurs, these 22-year-olds or whatever they are, that are millionaires right now. Like, you know, you think about when we were, I mean, I'm a bit older than you, but in my day, if we were at school, like, I'm going to be a multimillionaire, I'm going to get on Skype, or get on in TikTok and whatever else, and I'm going to do whatever. It just wasn't available to us. No, you had to do hard yards. It was like,
yeah, we didn't even have that. We still had dial-up.
Well, back then I didn't even have dial-up, so. But, you know, it was that whole thing of get a uni degree and get a job. I mean, and if you didn't get a uni degree, which I didn't, just go get a job. Just go get a job. You know, that's what you have to do. You have to get a job, and you stay in that job for years, and then you get the gold watch and you get the golden handshake, and you'll be fine. But
you just go off and get married and have kids and have your husband support you.
Well, yes, that was another option for people. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I was too much of a control freak. I couldn't just trust and surrender to that possibility.
Me either.
Because even as a mum, I was still running.
I was raised by a single mum too, and her mum was really super strong too. So it was just like, I couldn't fathom, you know, relying on a man, because the reliance on men just was not a thing in my world, you know.
No.
So it was just, you know, I don't really remember either of them saying, you know, you can't rely on men. But I certainly, you can shut the door, hon.
No, but it was shown to you. It was
shown to me, physically shown that you could rely on men to support you, because they just wouldn't be there, you know. And that's no disrespect to my granddad, because I loved my granddad dearly, but that philosophy was where she was at, my grandmother was at, my mum's mum, you know, and she treated him like that he couldn't be trusted, that he couldn't be relied upon, even though he could. So I saw the dichotomy there. I saw that conflictual reality there, and I didn't like it very much. You know, it's like Granddad and I banded together like two little buddies, you know, because it was just like us against the stinky bum women who just think that men are horrible.
But that's where you get that chain of ancestral damage, because, you know, something that happened ancestrally, you know, like so many ancestors ago, and as it comes down the line, and then all people or all women start to think that way. But what we do, and what I realized of what I did to my husband, is like, I crushed his masculine. Like, I really crushed it. Like, I saw him trying to rise sometimes. I was like, I don't think so. I'll squash you like a bug, you know. And I think about that now, and I go, oh, man, the poor bastard, you know. He was trying to rise up, and I was just like, oh, nobody controls me. down.
Yep.
And then I think about having 3 sons and seeing that. No wonder they pushed away from me at such a young age. Oh, we're not having any of that. I'm not going to be controlled by a woman. No, I haven't any of that. And then you look back now and you go, holy shit, oh my God, look at all the trauma I just created. Because you weren't aware of every single action that you take, of what it creates. And you just go, oh my God, look at what I've done.
Yeah, it's been quite fascinating to look back over my relationships, because I've had a few. And one of the common comments that would go through, like, my current partner doesn't say this because he appreciates this about me, but one of the common things that they have all said is, I don't know what to do for you because you do everything for yourself.
Yeah.
Everything. I can't even change a fucking light bulb for you because you do everything. My current partner says, oh God, you're more of a man than I am sometimes, but he appreciates that because he doesn't want to be the person to run the power tools and put IKEA furniture together and do all that stuff. Whereas that sort of stuff really lights me up and makes me happy. You know, he's really happy doing his sort of more the feminine stuff around the home and stuff like that, which is like great. I'm like, yeah, you could do the dishes. Awesome. High five. You know, so we've got a beautiful flowing of the masculine and feminine energies. So his masculine shows up when I require that support from a more spiritual, energetic side of life. You know, that's sort of where he steps into his masculine, and when he steps in and sort of supports me and goes, well, honey, is that really true for you? Or, you know, I wasn't too sure what you meant about that, and sort of gets me to question those aspects that have shown up that have maybe triggered him a little bit, but it's like still it's there. And it's like, so that's how we're sort of flowing with our masculine and feminine energies, because much like yourself, I was in my masculine for so fucking long. And it wasn't until about 2020 that shifted, because I had to go on that big journey with the feminine and with my pussy work and all that stuff, and changing that and dropping down the narcissism and healing those narcissism and gaslighting tendencies and all that stuff. All of that had to be balanced out. And so, like, for me, the last 2.5, 3 years has been a massive journey of balancing out those masculine and feminine energies. And for him, it's the same. He had to balance out his masculine and feminine energies because he was so much of his masculine for so many years, and his spiritual journey has been bringing up his feminine. So we've both done the same thing. And it's like, so now we get to balance each other out beautifully, and we kind of flow. We still challenge each other. I'm not saying we don't. And that's a great thing. And we both have that agreement of, like, even when we're challenging each other, be honest about it. You know, say what you're thinking and don't bottle it up, you know. So
that's like, awesome to be able to have that. Yeah.
And that was
without being offended. Yeah,
and it's challenging at times, you know. It is, but you know, that's part and parcel of having facilitated so many people. It's like now we get to facilitate each other, and at that kind of
Absolutely.
So I'd like to ask you, if you could sit next to any person, dead or alive, on a park bench for an afternoon, who would it be and why?
I've seen that come up on Facebook many times, and I've often wondered, who would I sit next to? It's interesting. I have 2 answers to that. The first one is I would like to sit next to a park bench next to my grandmother, because I don't feel like I had enough time with her. And whenever I do any spiritual work, I always wear this necklace. So this necklace she had, and it's just like little glass and plastic, little, I don't know what you call them, little Beads. That's the word. Beads. Spit it out. Beads. And it's just on a bit of string. This has to be. This necklace has to be at least 80 years old.
I was getting that. That was the number that was coming in for my
yeah. Because my mother's 76 and her brother was probably 2 or 3 years older than her, and he was the eldest. But this was the teething ring of my mother and her siblings. They would chew on it when they teeth. My grandmother would wear it, and they would just, very politically incorrect nowadays, of course, they wouldn't be chewing on any of this stuff right now. But I wear it when I do any spiritual work because it connects me to her in the afterlife, in the other life. Yeah. And I was only about 5 or 6, maybe, when my grandmother passed. And I always had a very close relationship with my grandmother. And she used to look after me when my mother went to work. And after she passed, I started hearing just on and off a ringing in the ear. Just a noise, a little buzzing in the ear. Now, if you spoke to a doctor about that, he'd tell you you've got some tendon, whatever they call it, something in your ear. But I know, and I know it in my heart of spaces, that it's connection to them. And I get it in my other ear as well. And my uncles and stuff have passed. So, and I didn't hear it for a while when I got busy in my life and wasn't in that realm. And then I stopped hearing it. But then I started hearing it again. Once I started stepping into my spirituality, I started hearing it again. So I know that it is something bigger than me. So she would be definitely one of the people that I would like to sit on a park bench with, because I would like to. My grandmother's completely different to my mother. My grandmother was very soft. She was a very true English woman. She would get offended by anybody yelling or swearing. She was the full feminine energy, right? It's so interesting.
I take umbrage.
Yes, she was the full feminine, and my mother has so much masculine, where my mother would just go, get out of the fucking way. My grandmother would have died on the floor if somebody had said that to her, so I would love to be in that presence of her feminine energy, because I feel like I really missed a level of that kind of feminine energy. Because I had the other energy, as much as my mother was caring and loving and she showed me all the things, but underlying that was this strong warrior woman, this powerful, but that was in her masculine. And on the very rare occasion, you would see that other side that would open up, but then the door gets shut real quick. Because like, we can't show you that. We have to. But my grandmother was very much in her other. So I would really love to spend some time sitting on a park bench if I could. And I suppose I can. I probably can. I probably can sit in there and I can channel in. But to be able to physically, and I don't want to go anywhere yet, of course. I don't want to go anywhere yet.
I feel the same about my granddad. It's like, I wish I could just sit there, just give him another hug, another squeeze, and just hold hands with him. And just that physical touch, that's the thing I miss the most about my granddad.
I mean, I've got the photos
and stuff like that, but yeah.
I mean, I've got the photos there and I can see them, and I was only young. My grandmother would lay on the bed and pretend she was the big bad wolf, and I'd have this little red cape on, and I've got her sewing basket, and I'm Little Red Riding Hood, and I'd be playing Little Red Riding Hood. My grandmother would play along with all of it, and just to be in that presence, because I really have been searching for that feminine presence. I've been searching for it within myself to enable it to come out, And, and in the beginning, I just said to you I had 2, but actually now I don't, because at first I thought, hey, it's the judgment on myself. I thought, oh, yeah, I'd really like to sit with my grandmother because, you know, I'd like to feel that energy. But then my mind was thinking, my mind was trying to control my thoughts. My mind was thinking, oh, yeah, but I should really give a better answer than that. I should really talk about somebody who's going to be quite potent to me, powerful, somebody who would be able to. But as I'm talking about my grandmother, and the more I'm talking and the more I'm talking into it, I'm going, actually, you know, there is no one else. There absolutely is no one else. That was just a figment of my imagination, thinking that I had to sit next to somebody powerful. But actually, my grandmother's powerful. She's powerful in her own rights, of the feminine energy that she would draw to me, that I would want to be around, you know. And that's how all of us, none of us are perfect. Like, even in this instance, I had this conflicting interest in my head going, oh, yeah, I'd like to be my grandmother. But, you know, she's just she's the grandmother. She's the nicety. But what about from a business sense of thing? Maybe I should talk about that. But I'm thinking, well, actually, it all rolls into the one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the true difference of when I was saying to you before, when you asked me about what would you give somebody advice about, whether it was in their spiritual life or their business life? There is no difference. And this is something I learned about a year ago. There is no difference between your personal life, your spiritual life, and your business life. If you're running a true thing, I mean, if you're running the Wendy's down the road, you're just pulling ice creams all day. Of course, that's, well, even that though, how are you pulling the ice creams? What are you giving when you give the ice cream? But for me, it was all about, there's no distinction between each of them. All of them are my lifestyle. The whole thing is just my life. It is my life. There's no distinction between, oh, this is who I am here, and then this is who I am here, and then this is who I am here. This is who I am, and these are the things that I do in my life. But it took me a long time to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're taught that we've got to wear all these different hats. Oh, today I'm mum, and now I'm the worker, and now I'm this over here, and now I'm the wife, and now I'm the grandmother, and whatever else. But actually, there isn't hats. You don't need to wear 50,000 hats. You're not the cat in the hat. You don't need all of them. You know, it's taking off the masks, you know. You don't need to have all these masks. It's just you in your rawness. And you're the most authenticness. And it's just like, this is who I am. And this is where I share my space throughout all these different areas in my life. And that's it. So, yeah, my grandmother would be the one that I'd want to sit on the park bench with. And just if you could get some visiting time for them to come down from heaven and sit on a park bench with you. I'm not ready to go to heaven yet. I've got too much to do. But she would be the one. She would be the one that I would really want to, to spend a little bit of time with and just feel into her feminine energy.
Mm.
I think there's so much to learn.
I love that. You know, there is so much we can learn from our ancestry. And it's not all bad. Like, we so often on our healing side of things, we go, oh, we've got to heal all that ancestral trauma and blah, 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 blah. But not all of it was trauma. A lot of it was beautiful gifts that were being passed down. And it's just sometimes along the line, it got a little bit skewy. But that's okay, you know. And I completely agree with you. Like, when I think of the ancestral stuff, there's so many spaces that I would like to go to. You know, I'd like to know more about, you know, my ancestral lines that are more of that spiritual leaning. Like, to go back that way, not just the bloodlines, but because I know that there's an element of obviously elemental spiritual stuff that creates this. But it's like, I became aware just recently of some elemental magic that I had a feeling had come through from my dad's side. And it wasn't till I looked at a photo of my mum and my dad at my christening. And I was like, oh, shit, there it is. And I mean, I've looked at this photo hundreds of times over the years, and I've never seen it before. Probably about 3 months ago, I saw it. And I was just like, oh, shit. Wow. And then suddenly things were starting to click into place for me around my elemental magic. And I was just like, that's why that's my grandma Pam was like that. And I wonder what her mum was like and her parents were like, because it's obviously coming through from that line, the ancestral line. And I'm just like, I want to know more about that.
Yes.
And that's not something you can find out on ancestry.com.
No, but you know, another thing, I did watch a little bit of a series on it, was family constellations.
Ooh.
Yes, Google family constellations. I know that Gwyneth Paltrow, the Goop that she was doing, she's done 2 of them, and I was watching those, and there was a group of people on there who wanted to learn about the ancestries. And what they do is that they get people, like we could do it, we could just stand in for them, and they tap into the energy and they actually play out the scene. Like, it might have been like, you know, say, oh, my father was I don't know, let's say my father was beaten as a child or something. I'm just using that as an example. And that from his father, and then but maybe nobody knew about it. They just knew that his father was. So what they do is they get these people and they stand them in, and they tap into these energies. And it's amazing how you see these people who they don't even know them, how they play out the scene, and they actually draw in that energy. And it's quite amazing. And I just was like, wow, I'd love to do that, and see how different things played out. It's almost like you're being able to recreate it in real life, not just through some hypnosis or something. You're actually watching people play out the scenes of your life, and they don't even know why they're doing things either. It's quite remarkable. Yeah, it's quite remarkable.
Wow. That looks like something I'm going to have a look at. And thank you, Annette, for putting that in the chat. Thank you. Ancestral constellations. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So, my love, we've been chatting a little while. I was kind of expecting this. We don't even have quick chats.
We don't. Thank you for those who are still sitting here listening to us.
This is amazing. So I'd love to know, how can people get in touch with you, and what things have you got coming up?
So currently at the moment, I don't really have a website or anything. I did have one, but that's sort of under review at the moment. So I do have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So Sonya Kay Horrocks is my page, and I have my business page of Connecting Souls Wellness, where I'll advertise most things up on both of those pages. On the 10th of this month, on a Monday night, I am running a full moon ceremony at my home down here in Semaphore, and which is fantastic. And I'm hoping that the weather is really quite nice, because once we do our little ceremony in the home here, I'd like to just pop around the corner, because I'm not too far from the beach, and we can all go down there and howl at the moon like we've done before. I don't think my neighbours would quite like it in my little unit area here of howling outside, but definitely could just pop around the corner down to the beach line there and do some howling, as long as it wasn't raining. I also have on the 14th of this month a Vulnerable Warrior Zoom, which is a masterclass, which is just touching. It's an hour and a half, and it's just touching into what does it mean to be a vulnerable warrior. So being vulnerable doesn't mean that you are weak, and being a warrior doesn't mean that you have to be tough all the time. But to be a vulnerable warrior means that you are the most powerful version of yourself that you can ever be. And we're going to be talking into that. And on the 23rd of October, I will be running my 4-hour in-person Vulnerable Warrior workshop. So the masterclass is to give you a bit of an insight and some information about what does that mean. And if you are keen to dive a little bit deeper, you can come along to the in-person event and actually really dive deep with us into vulnerabilities. The great thing is that the warrior isn't just for women, it is also for men. I do run a warrior woman, which is just female, to empower them to step into their inner warrior. But this vulnerable warrior, I was really called in to open the doors up to the men as well, because really working into the mirroring, into being vulnerable. And I think that especially for women, and actually in saying that, some men as well, they feel very vulnerable around the opposite sex through other trauma from previous things in their life, or they just don't feel confident in themselves, even just to talk to the opposite sex. So I really want to dive into some of that vulnerabilities to clear some of that up for people, because, you know, they're going through life and they're not feeling open and honest enough to be able to talk to the opposite sex, whether that be for, you know, meeting new people, or even just in general to be able to talk to someone, which will realistically help people in all areas of their life, not just relationships, but even work in the workforce. You know, if you are working in the workforce and you're a female and you've got a male boss, and maybe they're quite intimidating and you don't know how to deal with that, so you're feeling very vulnerable and you get very stuck, and then you get very stressed and you don't want to go to work, and, you know, it just tumbles on. Or if you're a man in the workforce and you work with a lot of women, you know, you may not know how to actually be in that space. So there's lots of areas where being vulnerable can help you. And I think that one of the other things I talk into is being vulnerable isn't just about going into a space of, say, I'm walking into this room with people I don't know, so I'm feeling a little bit scared, or I'm feeling very vulnerable in this moment. But it can also be showing up vulnerable. In other words, like I've been talking a lot into tonight, of taking the masks off. Taking the masks off, being completely in your rawness, and like you and I do, show up in your complete rawness of however you are in that moment. If you're feeling upset, then you show that. If you're feeling angry, then you show that. If you're feeling happy, you show that. So being 100% vulnerable, because one of the things I was talking into last week with people is that I remember distinctively when people say, oh, you know, what is your image as such? For me, back in the day, it was in sales. So I was like, oh, the shoes, the bag, the phone, that was me. If I had the power suit on, I had the heels on, I had the phone and I had the bag, and I'm getting on a plane or whatever, man, my ego was tripping. I was like, woof, I'm successful. You know, like, and I think about it, I'm laughable at myself now. I actually have to laugh at myself to think, oh my God, did I really act like that? Did I really think that was who I was? Like, how was I defining myself with a pair of bloody stilettos, a power suit, a phone, and a bloody bag? You know, and I was just like, what a shallow person I was. But again, it's all part of the onion layers. It's part of unpacking those onion layers and being that 100% vulnerable. But, you know, I look at it now, and if I hadn't have been that, I wouldn't be me now.
I also look at those times in our life as the before awakening moments of those are our coping strategies too.
Yes, like, of course.
As energetically aware people, we didn't ever really shut that off. We just learned to cope with it the best way that we could to try and fit in, so that we didn't stand out too much, because we didn't have any fucking idea. We didn't have any tools to how to deal with the fact that we are so weird. We can sense when people are lying. We can know what people are thinking before they say anything. And we know how to manage those energies, but we don't have the verbiage to know what the fuck we're doing. So we
had no shield. We had no shield.
Nothing around us, no form or structure. So we created the forms and structures that helped us to cope with all of these tools. Then
blend in.
and so that we didn't stick our heads up too high, because otherwise we'd get slammed down anyway because we're just too strange. Like I remember really distinctly when I was, I think I was in my very late 20s, early 30s. So it was after I had sort of had my big moment. And I remember my brothers saying to me, oh, you just care too much, Lorraine. And I was just like, how can you care too much? Yeah. I don't understand how you can care too much about anything or anyone. It's like, doesn't that put you in a special place in my world? Like, if I don't care enough about you or don't care much about you, then you don't matter to me. But you do matter.
That's right.
So and yeah, it's funny, interesting. Again, that was one of those moments where one of those masks had come off.
Yes.
Many actually had come off, and they were starting to see the real me, and it was making them uncomfortable, because they didn't.
Absolutely. Care. And the other thing I find is that, when you walk around and people say to you, oh, no, you're not 50. You're not 51. Oh, my God, you look about 40. And what I've realized is the more masks you take off, the younger you look.
Yep. I have to say, the other day I was in at Bunnings just picking up some bits and pieces, and the lady that's there, she was an older lady. I'd say she'd be in her late 50s. Well, no, she'd be in her 60s, I reckon. She was a much older lady in the garden centre there. And she said to me, I just have to ask you a question. And I said, sure. She goes, is your hair, did you like streak it like that? Is it painted like that? And I'm like, no, it's completely natural. And if you have a look on this side, like there's some even like brighter ones over here too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I absolutely love that. I love that your hair is just so beautiful. And she goes, is that your natural curls? And I said, yep. And I absolutely love them. And she goes, oh my goodness. And it's like you've got not a wrinkle on your face. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she's like, you're just sparkling from the inside out. It just pours out of your face. And I said, the funny thing is, I've had more compliments about my hair since I went natural with all the sparkles showing than I ever got when I was dyeing it.
Yes, taking off another mask.
And when I was in that half stage, that was a rough point, but it was a lot of ponytails at that time. I just had so many people say to me, oh, don't you think it's about time to like re-dye your hair? And I said, do you know what? No, because I'm actually letting my inner sparkle shine. I'm tired of covering up my inner sparkle. And so it was not just obviously about my hair, it was about me as a person.
Oh, that just hit me like a ton of bricks in my heart space then, because I had my hair done and about just before my birthday, so it'd probably be late August, and she didn't make me another appointment in November, and I said, there's no way I'm going to hold out till 3 months because she was going back home to the States. She goes, no, it'll be good. Well, within like 4 weeks, my hair's growing so much and I've got like that much regrowth, but I've got so many more sparkles now than I ever had. And when I wear my hair up, like to work like this, all I see is this ray of sparkles along here. I'm going, oh my goodness, like, what is this? Like, and I've been freaking out a little bit about it. But, just with you saying that now, I'm going, it's my sparkles. I'm sparkling.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to cover up any of that anymore.
Yes.
If you don't choose to. It was a request from my body. It was, I remember it was Christmas, and I was maybe 2017, I think it was. Oh, no, hang on. 2017. It was Christmas, and I dyed my hair, and then I said to my body, Truth, do you wish to dye it anymore? And it said, nope. Nope, I don't wish to do that anymore. And I said,
it's bloody expensive. Like, it's truly expensive.
I was
like,
just
honestly,
doing it box stuff at home. But the worst part about it was that with the more energetic work you do, the faster your hair fucking grows. Right?
This is God, I must be I must be really working hard then, because mine just went woof in like 3 weeks. It just went.
And I was, exactly. And I was having to re-dye every, 3 weeks. Just box dye, because it was like yours. I was having this massive regrowth, and I was just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I'm just having so much regrowth. And so I just said, no, my body said no. And so I honored that. I trusted my body and I honored it. And it was such a journey. It was a long journey. Like, it still took about a year for me to grow it out long enough. But yeah, it was still, and then I did a couple of really big chops, and it was like great. I was just so happy about that. And certainly that moment when you take that last little bit off, and it's just like, yes, now I'm all of me. Yes. This is, and I can choose to put makeup on. I can choose to not put makeup on. I choose for this platform because I enjoy it. It's part of the fun of dressing up and, all of that. But dyeing my hair was about covering up my sparkle. It was about fitting it in. It was about that moment when I was, just the first year at uni, and I came home and there's my mum, and she's cut like regrowth probably the same as yours, but she had a lot more white than I do even. And I remember distinctly at 18 years old coming home from uni going, oh my God, Mum, you look so old, go dye your hair.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So that came round to bite me in my ass for a while, because I then applied that same philosophy to myself, and I had a lot of people around me supporting that point of view too, that I had to dye my hair because it was sparkly.
But that's, I think, because again, with perception and conditioning, that if you've got the sparkle, people think you're old. But what they don't realize is that some people can get sparkle at 20. You can be completely sparkled at 20.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with age.
Nope.
Nothing at all to do with age.
No.
And when we embrace who we are, then we just are. And I must admit, the more I keep embracing myself and the more I keep embracing the real me, the authentic me with the layers off, the younger I feel. Like after, like as I said, I hit the 50 mark and I'm going, oh, I've gone through the veil into the new part of me. But I actually feel a bit like the Benjamin Button. I feel like I'm going backwards.
I know, right?
Yeah. And it's like I'm going backwards. And people comment, they go, no, you're not 51. There's no way you're 51. I thought you were 40. I thought, well, I am. Yes, I am 40. I am 30. I'm 20. Maybe I'm 21 today.
Yeah.
Who knows? Does anybody really know how old we are? No, because somebody made up the thing of a year takes 12 months. And after that year, then you get to be another year older. Well, maybe I'm going to say, because this year I actually worked about a 12-hour day on my birthday because I was working my job and then the royal show. So I didn't get to celebrate my birthday at all. So I'm like, I didn't really have a birthday. I never had a birthday, so I'm not really another year older. So I'm still 50. I'm like, well, because people say to me, I'm 50. I don't even say 51 because I'm going, well, I never actually had the birthday. So I'm not going to take the year with it, thanks.
I really like reality. I think I might just stay for about 5 years. That'll be great.
I'm just happy to stay at 50 because 5 is my lucky number. And 5's always been a great number for me. So I'm just staying here at 50.
Yeah.
And I will just continue on. And every year I'm going to be 50. And I never even got a 50th party because of COVID and all that crap. So I'm like, well, I'm just hanging out until I get a 50th. And then I'll be 50. And then I'll continue on from there.
Oh my I love it. I absolutely love it. And hi, Debbie. Thank you for tuning in. She's loving
yes,
our
Debbie.
chat today.
And Debbie is one of my old school pals. We went to school together. So Debbie's seen all the vulnerable side of me from the age of like year 8.
Wow. That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I've got a couple of friends in my world. Funnily enough, they both live in Perth, who have known me since I was 7. So that's 1 or 2 years. And it's cool. I love it. I love those long friendships too. It's just so beautiful.
Absolutely.
Considering I've moved around so much over the years, to actually have 2 people in my world from back then is like a bloody big miracle in itself. Anyway, my love, we should be scooting along. So just to let the beautiful beings know, I am going to be on Find You Fridays here at 8 p.m. on Friday. And then Brooke has got me on his show on Sunday, which feels like Sunday at 7 p.m. on his channel, Intuitive Focus, on Sunday. So you can catch the 2 of us doing readings and stuff on either me on Friday or both of us on Sunday. Then next week, Tuesday, for Tasty Tuesdays, I've got the 2 guys and a girl back. And this time we're going to be, so that's with Matt Kun, my partner, and Brooke Hanlon. So the 3 of us get to chatting about the different aspects of masculine and feminine energies. And this week we're going to be talking about relationship roles. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting, tasty chat. We've sort of teased you a little bit with our conversation tonight. So thank you for that, Sonya.
That's okay.
And then, of course, there's just lots of other yummy, juicy, delicious things coming up in the next few weeks. But one of the biggest things for me at the moment is the Honouring You retreat, which is here for the beautiful women here in Adelaide. That's happening up in Flaxley on the 11th to the 13th of November. And so the spaces for that are open at the moment. You can find them on the My Crafting Possibilities .com website, so you can find them up there, the Honouring You retreat. And that is with the energy of that is just like in my world, and I'm so fucking excited about it. The venue, the Farm for Wellbeing out at Flaxley, is just beautiful. It is so lush, and the energy of it is just so yummy. Hey, it's like, I had to go out there on the weekend to drop off some flyers and stuff, and I was just like, as soon as my foot touched the ground, it was like the tingles just went all the way up through my body all over again, and I was just like, yay. So
it's such a wonder up there.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, those tickets are on sale now. The spaces are on sale. You get not only me, you facilitating a workshop, you'll get Matt Balaji is his name, from Sound of the Kun. He's doing a sound bath drum workshop, and you've got Lucy Butler doing a workshop, and you've also got Nikki Schultz doing a workshop. So, and Nikki's going to be doing a mandala workshop. So that's going to be really fun. And myself and Lucy will be doing other sort of personal development, releasing type work. And just lovely goddess nurturing, nourishing type work too in our workshops. So we come from slightly different perspectives, and that's the gift of having, essentially 4 different facilitators over a 2.5-day period. So super exciting, super cool, and I'm really looking forward to that. So if you wish to get into that one, I'll just bring up the doohickey widget, because trying to keep things simple on the old internet snobs. Oh, wrong way. And then we will be able, copy, there we go, paste, go. There we go. Okay, my friends, And thank you so much, Sonya, for coming to chat. We've been on for 2 and nearly a half hours. I love it. Fucking love it. Absolutely glorious.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first inaugural podcast. And it's been so much fun. And, what a great one to start off with, of course, yourself. And it's just been brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I've been so excited for this night to come on here and chat with you about this stuff. And thank you to all of you beautiful people that have jumped on board and listened and stayed with us till the end. It's just been totally amazing. And it's just fantastic. I just love it. And I love how the tribe keeps on growing, just keeps on growing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the gift of doing this platform is that we're a continually growing community, and I love it. And each guest brings their own next little layers of people, and it's just so cool. So cool.
Absolutely.
Any better. Alrighty, gorgeous ones. Get out there, do something tasty for yourself this week. And in the meantime, be bold, be brave, and be you. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.